Hey, Melissa.
Hey.
We have fans now.
We do.
I didn't expect to be here.
Yeah, well, we're getting some positive feedback, so I think that's good.
And, we just want to shout out to our fans and our listeners that we appreciate them. Because, at the end of the day, this podcast is just trying to get information out there for them. And if they find out it's helpful, that's worth it for us.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, again, Melissa, this is episode 7.
Wow.
Common Sense Medicine.
7.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I am Tim Chen. I am a founding physician with interest in population health, and my wonderful co-host, Melissa.
Melissa Wood, family nurse practitioner with additional certification in lifestyle medicine.
Which is awesome and very helpful today because we'll be talking more on lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, the goal of Common Sense Medicine is just to make things common for our listeners, right? So there are a lot of confusion on the internet. A lot of times, even conventional medicine, right? Before it was like no butter. Now it's okay, butter's not as bad. Then it was margarine. Now it's no margarine. There's confusion everywhere. Mm-hmm. But luckily now in 2022, we are definitely a little bit more evidence-based than we used to be. Progress, right? Not just, well, my grandma said it worked. We actually have studies. And so we want to make that common. And today we'll be talking about physical activity.
Yes, exercise.
Yeah, very important.
Yes.
But you'll be talking about exercise, why it's important, how it works. We'll be talking about maybe some common misconceptions. I have patients that say all sorts of things with exercise, and a lot of it doesn't have to be that way. So we'll be talking about that. And then we'll be talking about supplementation. It's a $1 billion business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also post-workout.
Yes.
A bunch of weird things that people do.
Yeah, recovery type techniques.
Yeah. So I just scratched my wall. Hopefully we can edit that out. All right. Well, Melissa, let's go ahead and start. Exercise. Everybody knows they have to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? But why is it important?
Well, it's important for a lot of things. It's important for cardiovascular health, for weight management, for mental health, bone health, cognition, focus. There's all kinds of different reasons that we need exercise. And a lot of, more.
See, if we were budgeted and sponsored thing, we can give you a glass of water. But we are not.
We need a professional editor for this episode. I'm sorry. So there's lots of reasons for exercise, but I think part of what, we're dealing with in today's society is we have engineered so much physical activity out of our daily routine that we have to put it in there somewhere.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We talk about other places in other countries in which maybe we'll bring in another episode talking about, I guess here the closest thing is a college university. Students here, you go to Mississippi State, you go to one of these universities, they're walking campuses. Mm-hmm. And a lot of students go and they just lose so much weight and they feel so good. And all they did was walking and being active is now just part of normal life. Mm-hmm. And you're right, here, obviously in Mississippi, where we are, without a car, we're not going anywhere. So, and if you ride a bike, at your own risk, you might die. Mm-hmm. Might get hit and run over because we're not used to that. But it's like you said, because we don't have that as much, most of our jobs are sedentary, we do have to find time to put it in there. Mm-hmm. And I like the things you brought out in the beginning. Obviously, everybody thinks about weight loss. They think about, strength building, bone health. But most people don't realize cognition, sleep, focus, all these things that are on the mental aspect of it can be improved with exercise as well.
Oh, for sure. And I think we hear that all the time from our patients. When they start exercising, they realize, I'm sleeping better. My mood is better throughout the day. And just, in your own experience, have you ever exercised and, felt bad about it afterwards? No, you usually have like a boost of energy and, maybe, the increased focus for those few hours afterwards and sleeping better at night and things like that.
Yeah. A side note from that, actually, there was a study. Now, it wasn't, the highest quality study done years ago on children and exercise. And what they did was they took the kids and let them have like 2 hours of recess. They just let them run and let them play and, not even scripted play, just let them go out there and burn the energy. And the studies showed that significant improvements in ADHD, like significant improvements in kids being able to focus because, kids are kids. They got to move, and all that pent up energy all day long, not moving, it's hard for them to focus. But adding that in, even for adults, if we stay active, keep moving, the ability to concentrate, the ability to sleep better at night, it's evident just in our own experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And just those afternoon energy dips that we experience, we have the opportunity to walk sometimes at lunch, which we, both of you and I, our lunches are staggered, but we each take our time at lunch to go walk on our track out here. Yesterday, it was raining, pouring rain. Didn't get to go for a walk. I was tired all afternoon. Like,
for sure, yeah.
I had to go make some coffee. But normally, I don't realize what a boost I get from that until I don't have it. So
Yeah. And I think, one, I guess moving on to our next topic, one common misconception with exercise is you need 3 hours a day. In fact, I had a patient tell me, like, I can't exercise because I don't have 3 hours a day, which is like, do you want to die? I mean, if you go to the gym for 3 hours, you might not make it, unless you're an Olympic athlete, you might not make it out alive.
Yeah, I mean, 3 hours a week is good for a lot of people. And really, I mean, in, all seriousness, recommended weekly amount of exercise is about 150 minutes. So just to maintain overall cardiovascular health and get some good benefits from exercise, about 150 minutes a week is a good starting point. So it doesn't have to be anything real crazy.
Yeah. And to kind of build up on that, most studies show that even in 10-minute increments, you're going to start getting benefit. So, sorry, of course, we get phone called. Xfinity, leave me alone. Even in 10-minute increments, so if you do 150 minutes, that's like 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, or, you can do longer and do less days. But in that 30 minutes, if you do 10-minute increments, you're going to start getting benefit, which for me and you, a lot of our walks are maybe 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, at most 30 if we're being adventurous, but mostly definitely not an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just enough to get that 10 minutes in is a good boost and still counts towards that 150 minutes for your week. So if you have to divide that up throughout your day or do larger sessions on the weekend, smaller little increments during the week where you can fit it in, just still squeeze it in where you can. 10 minutes counts. Don't not exercise just because you can't make it to the gym for an hour.
And I think that's really helpful because, some of our patients listening, they might be on the road. We have a lot of truck driving patients. We have a lot of patients who are, busy. They maybe drop work all day, then drop the kids off, and they might not be able to have like a 30-minute or straight hour, blocked off to do anything. And just to know that you don't need, a common misconception is, well, I don't have an hour, I don't have 3 hours, I can't do anything. Even if your kids are practicing soccer and you just go walk around the field for 15, 20 minutes, that is really, really helpful. And again, I think the point of today's podcast isn't, whoa, we're picking up all.
We are picking up some extra noise here.
We're having a Christmas party.
Yes.
So as we're talking about exercise, I'm about to go eat a bunch of Christmas.
We're not going to get our walk in today either. No, we have a party.
That's right. And it's almost lost my train of thought. You're right. I mean, even just walking around, being outside, the point of this exercise we're talking about, we're not talking about bodybuilding, right? If you want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger or some of these guys that are just jacked, you probably need shots of human growth hormone and testosterone. And you probably do need to be in the gym hours at a time. But we're talking about just being healthy, cardiovascular risk. You want to be an active parent with your children. You want to be an active grandparent. You want to be able to get on the ground and play with your grandkids. You want to be carrying them up and down stadium stairs when you go to games. Just for that kind of active quality of life, you only need 30 minutes, 150 minutes a week, and you can achieve that.
Yeah, I think it's doable for just about anybody. And a lot of people are concerned about motivation. Well, how do you find the motivation to get out and do any of this? I'll usually tell people, just tell yourself that you're going to go 5 minutes, whatever that is, whether it's getting up off your couch and doing some squats while you're watching your favorite show or going outside for a walk, put your shoes on, just tell yourself you're going to do 5 minutes. Most of the time, once you're 5 minutes into it, you're going to feel a little more motivated to keep going. And if you don't, you've at least gotten a little bit of movement in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, speaking on exercise, I think one of the things we talked about was weight loss. Exercise and the number on the scale may not always correlate, right? Because if you exercise from a standpoint of like, I just want to lose weight. And we have a lot of patients say like, I don't eat well at all. I just exercise and I can't lose weight. Most of the time it's because if you go to the gym for 30 minutes, you might burn 200 calories, which is just 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and it's gone, and so really when it comes to weight, like if you want the weight to go down, you have to match it with eating. In fact, it's mostly eating. But if you want to feel better, have you'll start noticing maybe the clothes fitting looser, your body feels leaner, things like that. That exercise can help irrespective of the number on the scale actually going down.
Yeah, I think that's real important for people to realize is that, exercise alone is not going to be your ticket to weight loss. You've got to have the diet component as well. But also just knowing that as we exercise, we're doing other things for our body. We're, building that lean muscle mass, things like that may not necessarily do anything to the scale, but right, your clothes are fitting differently. You maybe, feel differently, more energy, different things like that. And so it can make big difference overall, but maybe not what most people think they're going to see on the scale.
Yeah. And even, I don't know if we mentioned that on there, but even balance. So some of our older patients, one of the biggest risk factors for death in elderly people is hip fracture from falls. And that's why, there's so much money being invested by Medicare to try to fall prevention, moving rugs, and we would have home health go in there and just give advice looking at the house because we know that if people fall and break their hips, their mortality is high, like 50% at 6 months. However, one of the best ways to combat that is to start now, when you're in your 30s and 40s, having an active lifestyle, which will help keep the body mass and muscles and everything in place so that the balance stays good. We call proprioception, which is where you can feel like where your feet is going without watching your feet move. Those nerves get better with exercise, which is really important for balance. So all these things, more than just, I'm going to exercise to build muscle and lose weight. There's so much more with it. And it is not as hard as you think it is. I think that's a common misconception. You don't have to go join this gym and spend 3 hours or $200. You can do it much easier than that.
Yeah. And I think whatever you choose to do, finding something that you can be consistent with is the biggest thing. So if you're not going to be able to drive across town to the gym, you've got to figure out a different form of exercise, whether that's doing a video at home or just going for a walk on your lunch break or whatever it is. It's got to be easily accessible and something that you can incorporate into your life and, make a commitment to that as well. The consistency is key.
Yeah. Which I think, a common pitfall I hear where patients, when it comes to exercise is the things like, I'm just going to eat better or I'm just going to exercise. But if you don't have a plan, I would say the failure rate is like 90%.
Oh, for sure.
If not, yeah.
And even a lot of people that have a plan and the best intentions don't always follow all the way through for whatever reason. And so having things like an accountability partner or somebody doing it with you or even just telling someone what you're doing is a big part of it too.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Melissa, what do you do? Because you're a mom working full time, rock star at the clinic, right? 2 kids, husband, obviously you have cooking dinner and stuff like that. How do you make time in your life to keep exercise going and stay active?
Yeah, I fit it in where I can. Some mornings I wake up early to do it. This time of year when we're not busy in the evenings with, soccer and things like that. Right now we're kind of in a lull with that. So I can do my workouts after work before dinner. So I just squeeze in that 30 minutes of time and, I'll fit in a walk at lunch. But yeah, just really making it as easy to do in small increments of time, because exercise after kids is a lot different than before kids. It used to be.
True.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a decade since I've been able to go to a gym because, we've got kids, we've got, busy lives. And so it all has to be done at home. Mm-hmm. It all has to be done where it can fit into my schedule. And I use an app. Mm-hmm. I use some home weights. And I will say, we talked about just overall average number of minutes per week. That, is typically that aerobic type exercise, but adding a couple strength training type sessions per week can be really helpful also for that, again, that lean muscle mass that we lose as we age and bone health and all kinds of things. So adding that in, I think, has made a huge difference for me personally. And I know you do strength training at home as well. So
yeah, no, exactly. And I can see your guns, Melissa. It's winter time, so the sun's not out, but I can definitely tell sun's out or guns out. No, I agree. I do Beachbody. Beachbody's subscription ends up being like $7 or $8 a month. So I mean, you can't eat out for one person with a price like that. But the nice thing is they have programs. They're short. They have everything from, if you have access to full gym, you can do this. If you only have no weight and you're using body weight, you're traveling, you're in a hotel, you got 20 minutes, they will make you sweat to death in 20 minutes, If you have resistance bands, so people who are driving trucks, they don't, you can't carry weights around there, but you can buy resistance bands and just do it, in your hotel, do it outside in the car, there are ways that we can do to make it happen that are not time consuming, that are instant. We are not sponsored by Beachbody. hit. Or Fit On app. But right, there's apps everywhere. They're all free and they are good. Mm-hmm. And it's like you said in the beginning, whatever one you choose, as long as we're consistent. If it's a 30-day program, if it's couch to 5K in 30 days, whatever it is, as long as you pick it and you just stick with it, I feel like once it becomes a habit, you feel bad. Like when you don't do it, you feel really draggy and not awesome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's to bust that myth. You can do it anywhere, like a Dr. Seuss book, in a box with a fox on a chair, right? Without hair. I don't know. I lost that rhyme, but we don't have to make, I guess, another excuse saying I don't have 3 hours to go to a gym. You have 30 minutes, you have 20 minutes. You can do it in a hotel room, outside, resistance band, body weight, whatever you want to do. And there's apps that are free or really, really cheap that can help us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess moving on, Melissa, let's say someone wants to start a workout, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, there's all these supplements. And I think most people realize, okay, if you want to build your body to look like Arnold or some of these dudes on Instagram, which are all fake, just kidding. You might have to do some weird stuff. But for most people, tell me, a lot of people tell me I need a pre-workout. What is your experience, Melissa?
I mean, I don't do any type of pre-workout thing. I think, probably again, about a decade ago, I tried, one of the popular pre-workouts on the market and it just made me feel jittery. I did not feel good. I don't know what was in there, but it was not just normal, caffeine that you would get from a cup of coffee. It had some other things in there. I'm not sure, but it just didn't make me feel good. Jittery, anxious, all the things. So I find that I just do better when I just,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Regular nutrition and water.
That's right. Well, and a girl, it's like, this stuff, it can make your heart jump. I've had patients who thought they had anxiety disorder and it was all pre-workout. And really, most of the time, if you sleep well and you eat well, you don't need any extra whatever you're putting in your body, because we don't even know what's in there, to really get your heart rate and everything jacked up. You can do it on your own. And most of it, actually, if you look at studies, a lot of it's just placebo. You feel like you're taking something, so you feel like you can go harder, but really you can go harder if you just sleep well and eat well. I think another one people ask about, speaking of protein is, a lot of people are like, I better take my protein right after. You actually don't. And actually studies show that as long as you have the protein amount throughout the day, which most of us get plenty of in our normal diet, you don't have to time it, take an expensive protein, take this, $100 pea protein or hemp protein, whatever protein they have out there. As long as you eat, normal in your diet, you should actually be able to get that straight from your diet.
Yeah, and that overall average is really what counts, not necessarily just the timing of when you consume those things.
Yeah. All right. Now, Melissa, we're moving on to our final area, which is this post-workout recovery. Because I feel like there's so much money being spent here. And a disclaimer, I mean, we're not sponsored by anybody. And it's your money, so you can, if you want to go buy a Maserati, buy a Maserati. If you want to buy a Honda Accord, buy a Honda Accord. But, this idea of I'm going to spend thousands of dollars on this cryotherapy, on electrostimulation, all these things. What do you think, Melissa? Those are kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think we brought up this topic because I was watching the new series. I don't even know what it's on, but with Chris Hemsworth and
Thor, man.
Yes. He was taking this cold plunge, like swimming through an Arctic lake for some sort of health benefit. And I'm like, if he's jumping into a cold lake, do we need to look into this? Like, is this something we need to be doing for our health?
Right.
Aside from that, I think in the past several years, a lot of people have kind of looked into the cryotherapy, the cold showers, the other types of cold type recovery. Even, 10 years ago when I was running marathons, I would be known to take an ice bath after my long run because it was supposed to be good for recovery. Now, whether it did anything for me or not, or just made me, extremely cold and uncomfortable, I don't know. So that's why we kind of started looking into it. But
yeah, right. Which I guess we start with cold because, that's a really common one. Ice baths, cold showers. There's a lot of, people said this will raise your metabolism. This will do, all sorts of miracle cure, even extend your life. And most of those studies are pretty bad, and to put a plug in, there are different qualities of studies. The most important thing with studies is especially if you're looking for intervention, is you want to know that this is the only difference between the two populations, right? So you have, my watch keeps hitting this desk. You have two groups of people. One group you want to do this intervention on, one group you don't. The only way to develop a good study is that in these two groups, the only difference is your intervention. But like we shared before, like I think this most recent one, this is a sidebar, people who didn't get COVID vaccine are more likely to get in a car accident. Like, what kind of trash study is this? And
how do you even look at that?
And exactly. And clearly, I mean, it's not related to that. People who got vaccinated maybe are wealthier, can work from home, don't have to drive. People who are maybe not getting vaccinated, they're the ones that couldn't have access to transportation, maybe are working lower end jobs, maybe more, fast food, service industry that have to drive. So clearly the population is different. And so you can't say they get in more car accidents, and same thing with these, a lot of these therapies. Some of these, maybe they're better off because they're wealthy people that can afford $1,000 a month cryotherapy session. Maybe you're Tom Brady, you're paying literally $1 million a year on some of these things versus me and you, we're just trying to get the kids to bed. Yeah. Not throw our back when we carry a baby, and so, speaking of this cold plunge stuff, I think we looked at it from a post-workout, like ice bath, cold compression. There's actually some data that it will decrease inflammatory markers in the blood, will help with delayed muscle onset. Now, it didn't determine whether it was cryotherapy where you got super, super cold or just an ice bath. But I think overall, the study is like there might be some benefit with that. But the difference between cryotherapy and just immersion in cold, there was no huge difference between those two.
Yeah. And I think some of the things that we read too, some of the benefits from these therapies, it's hard to say, like you said, if that's truly coming from the therapy itself, or are they just living longer and feeling better because they do exercise and they do watch their diet and things like that. So it's really hard to just isolate that in all cases. Yeah.
And in fact, the biggest benefit I saw in the study talking about what can we do to delay muscle onset, muscle fatigue after workout was actually massage and compression, which I think intuitively know Like if you had a hard workout, a hard run after a marathon, whatever, you go and get a massage, you just feel a lot better.
Yeah, your muscles feel sore. You kind of want to just rub it, and yeah, that's going to make you feel better.
Yeah. So I think the moral of the story is you don't have to spend a lot of money on these very expensive things. Massage, cold water, those things are really helpful. Another one was post-workout stretching. Post-workout, they call it active recovery. So you're not just sitting there stretching, but actually, moving and stretching at the same time seems to be able to help the body increase blood flow and stuff like that. So moral of the story, again, don't have to spend a bunch of money. You should be fine with just regular stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's for most of these things. If it makes you feel good, sure, do it. And, if it fits into your lifestyle, fine, do it. I don't think there's necessarily like a good or bad either way. We talked about heat therapies too, things like sauna, which have been around for thousands of years. And even as we were kind of looking at this, we found that cultures on the other side of the world from each other both had heat type sweat rooms or things like that. And it's, obviously they didn't talk to each other and tell each other about how great they feel with heat therapy.
Tweet each other or follow a trending like Hot House. Yeah.
They just thought that heat felt good and felt cleansing and things like that. And so, that's kind of where that started. And I think that carries over in today. There's maybe not a whole lot of extra evidence now, but if it makes you feel good, go for it.
That's right. And it's in your budget. You want to pay for it, have at it. So, well, Melissa, we did a thing. We can talk forever. We have a great conversation. And we're at 26 minutes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I think, we can summarize. I mean, today, I guess the talking points, number one, exercise, very important. More than just building body, looking good, beach season, 6-pack abs and stuff like that. But just for general heart health, mental health, sleep, focus. I mean, exercise is huge and crucial. The second point is you don't have to spend a lot of money or a lot of time doing these things. In fact, you can work it into your busy life schedule as mom with kids, as dad working full time and with kids, as a truck driver, as, someone who, whatever you do, we can make time for it because we're talking 10 minutes at a time, 30 minutes in a day. You can do apps. You can do it at home, strength training. We talked about supplementation. Most of it is not needed as long as we just eat well and sleep. And then, of course, post recovery, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can just do things that feel good.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary.
Awesome. All right. Well, Melissa, any closing thoughts that you have?
No, I think that's it. I think that wrapped it up nicely.
Yeah. Well, Melissa, I think, it's Christmas time.
Yes.
So next week, you're going to be on a cruise, but we will record earlier.
Yeah, we can record Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. And we will talk about maybe, a Christmas show, our favorite Christmas holidays stuff, Christmas foods, talk about funny Christmas songs, maybe debunk some funny facts. So we might have to put another guest question.
Yeah. Maybe we can put that out there and see what people want to talk about for the holiday.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
All right, Melissa, always appreciate it. I think we are about to go eat because it was loud and then they're quiet. So I bet
they must be eating.
Eating, yeah.
It's like kids.
It's like, you're right. When it's quiet, you're like, uh-oh. They're either eating or something bad is happening. So, all right, girl, we'll talk later.
Okay.